Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining the community. It means so much to me. I'm so dedicated in making this community gigantic, international, and doing a lot of good with it. And it's only going to happen with your help. So you're so appreciated, and thanks again so much. Now today, we'll do a little photo showcase, let's call it. Just don't want to show the photos, but I kind of want to show the story behind it. Perhaps how I got the shots and maybe what happened before, after, during. There's always a story with photography and with wildlife. I have mountains of this stuff. So today I was on my laptop and I saw some photos of one of my hawks called Brisa, and brought back a lot of really cool memories. So I figured we could start with this. So let's get rolling. Now, here, this is Brisa. Now, Brisa is a very unique type of hawk. There's several different types of hawks. There's the Buteos, which are like the soaring red-tailed hawks, broad-winged hawks, red-shouldered hawks. Then there's the Accipitridæ, the ones that are the deep woods hawks, like the goshawks and the sharpshins, Cooper's hawks. Then there's the falcons, like the peregrines and things like that. This is called not a Buteo, but it's called a Parabuteo, and it's the only species that's a Parabuteo. They're in a total class by themselves. And what makes them very different is that they actually hunt in packs like wolves do. And that's not typical of birds of prey. Birds of prey are very independent, very solitary animals. If you see ones sitting side by side, they're mates, but they always look like they're about a day from divorce. And there's very little cuddling involved. And that's about as far as everything goes. But the Harris hawks, they're like a wolf pack. They will hunt and live in family units. Now, they're from the southwestern United States, New Mexico, Arizona, areas in the desert there. They love living amongst the cacti. And they don't just go out and kill the same thing at the same time. They do have their own jobs. It is an organized event. Perhaps there is a hawk that is in charge of really spotting the prey. Then there's another hawk in that family that's kind of in charge of chasing it down. And typically the prey, mostly down there, black-tailed jackrabbits, would flush into the brush. And as soon as they go into the brush, there's a hawk that'll get feet right on the ground and run right into the brush to grab them. So they work in unison. And they're the only species that does that. So it makes them very, very unique animal. Now, you see this first photo kind of looks like his class yearbook photo. But it was really nice because it came out so clear. You could see the eyes. Now, on birds of prey in general, they can see 10 times more detail than we do. So tremendous eyesight. And you see the hook of that beak, the curvature of the hook and the sharpness of that beak. Now, that's very interesting because that's obviously carnivorous animals. That beak is like a knife and a fork. That's what they use to cut up their prey into little pieces and eat it. Now, you can tell a lot by looking at the beak of birds, where it might live, how it might catch their food, what they might eat. So every beak is really specialized for the species of bird and what it's going to eat. That is a carnivorous meat eater. Now, this next one here, nice little profile view here I liked. This is the immature plumage. This is what a Harris hawk looks like in the first year. They'll change. They'll get much more rusty brown and black when they get into their mature plumage after that first year. But the first year bird, that's what you're going to see there. That's a typical immature plumage. Now, although Brisa was raised in captivity, she was not raised by humans. I did not hand feed her because I didn't want her to become imprinted. And imprinted is when an animal either hatches out of the egg or it's just born and then it's connected with humans and then it relates with humans. It actually becomes a human in their own mind. They really have little in common in their mind in relating to other animals of their species. With some animals, that can work out really well. Some parrots, you imprint them, they're fantastic. Birds of prey, on the other hand, not all, but many of the species, if you do imprint them, what happens is that they become so comfortable with you, they think that you're equal, and they become territorial sometimes, and they get very aggressive towards people. And that can be dangerous. I've been attacked many times by imprinted birds of prey. It is absolutely no fun. So I didn't want to imprint it. So what we did was called chamber raising it. And chamber raising it is when it was really raised by its parents in a chamber. It was captive bred, but the mom and dad raised it. So up until they are ready to leave the nest, and a little while after, they've never had any contact with humans whatsoever. So then what happens is that I started working with her. And she was technically wild, had no interaction with humans. And it took me a long time to get that trust. But once that was all done, then she trusted me. She knew me. There was a bond there. But there was kind of a barrier of knowing, okay, well, I'm a hawk and he's a human, and we'll create this relationship, as opposed to all we're equal. So it takes away a lot of that aggression. That's the reason I did that. But at first, once she's hatched out, you want to take her out of the nest. You want to make sure that she's nice and healthy. So here is a beautiful picture of her when she's just a couple days old, kind of going through her little physical to make sure that she's nice and healthy. Then placed right back into the nest for the mom to take care of. And here's a photo of her on a blurry security camera. But you see a little bit of that reflection there where the feet are. That's the mom's feet. So she was feeding her right there. But before she got put back into the nest, we had to take some baby pictures, right? So here are some of the cool baby pictures. This baby picture here I love because it explains her to a T. That mouth wide open. She's a screamer. Her whole life, she's extremely vocal. Since she hatched out of the egg, I don't think that mouth is ever closed for more than 10 minutes unless she's sleeping. And here's some side shots. Kind of looks like a little chicken in a way, but far from it. A little 3/4 shot there. Now this one, check this out. This is when she was about 4 weeks old. And that's incredible, right? From a few days old, and those pictures you just saw, here she is about 4 weeks old. That is how fast they grow. And it's very important to them because when they leave the nest, they have to fly, they have to learn to hunt, they need to be fully functional. They have no time to grow after that. So from hatching out of the egg to becoming a brancher, which means they're leaving the nest and hopping around the branches to when they leave, sometimes can be about 6-7 weeks. That is how fast it is. So at 6 or 7 weeks, this female is the same size as mom. Different color because of the mature plumage, but it is the same size as mom. And so that's why it's very hard to tell sometimes the age of a bird, because once they turn 2 years old, so when Brisa turned 2, she got her mature plumage. And if you put her next to her mother, who was about 15 at the time, you would think they were sisters. They looked exactly the same because the feathers fall out and become replaced every year. So they really only look about a year old. So once they get into that mature plumage there, it's almost impossible to tell the old ones from the young ones, which is a real interesting point that many don't realize. Here's a sweet one too. If this was just in hand, so you can get a size of the amount that has grown in that small amount of time. But again, look how now that beak is developing, how those talons, those feet are developing, and those are perfectly adapted killing machines and extremely strong. Now here's her. Well, let's say right there she's about 6-7 weeks old. So that's how fast, that short amount of time from that little egg, boom, to that, is only about 7 weeks, give or take. That is how fast that they grow. So then once she's out of the nest, she's full grown and she looks like that. We let her stay in the chamber a little bit to kind of get her wits about her, get her muscles going and get her hopping around and kind of getting steady on her wings a bit. Then the time came when I wanted to start training her. So when I wanted to start training her, what I did was first hold her on the fist for hours, sometimes 14, 15 hours at a time. I would sleep with a pedestal next to my bed with my glove, with her sitting there, and just sleep. And then she'd just sit there, and then through time, she'd realize, all right, this guy's not out to hurt me. He's taking care of me. Everything's good. They'd let down their guard, and they start taming down. Then you put a little creance on her. The creance is like a little thin line, and get her hopping to the fist, and giving her some food when she gets there. And then you make that a little further and further. And after a while, you realize, okay, well, I think she's tame enough to where we can take the crayons off. And that's kind of like the moment of truth. There's sometimes I've taken the crayons off and boom, that bird just flew off. Eventually tracked him down, but it took a while. So you really have to know. And when the crayons comes off, they kind of know it. So you can see they get a little antsy, like, oh, wait a minute, I think I can ditch here. So that's a very, very special time where you have to use your instinct or your experience and your intuition to see when it is time. When it is, you take it off, and then you start working with her when she's free. Here's a cute video. Now, most birds of prey, let's say all animals, not just most, all of them, are opportunists. So they only do a lot of things that they need to do. So right here, you'll notice in this video, she doesn't want to fly around. She doesn't want to hunt. She thinks that she can just wander around and hop over and get fed by me and hang out and just be lazy. Although it is wonderful to sit out in a beautiful field like this with a hawk laying next to you, you just feel like life is perfect. It's bad behavior for the hawk. So this is something that you don't want to really support too much. You let her relax and do it a little bit, but she has to realize that's not the way life is going to be. So she needs to get out. She needs to really start getting her muscles, developing her muscles, and learning how to fly and getting exercise. You know, you don't want her cooped up. You want her to be nice and strong, just as if she would be in the wild, or at least make the best possible chance to do that. So I stopped really allowing that and making her work for her food more, and making her work to follow me around more. So here, it became a step-by-step process. You'll notice in this video here, she's flying right over and thinks she'd be noble and land on the fist, but no, she lands on the ground, thinking then she can just walk up and then we're going to go and hang out again. But wouldn't give in to it. So stood there and said, all right, come on, girl, you got to come up here. Had the fist up ready for her, and look what she does. She's flying up, and boom, we'll stop it there. And the reason I stopped it there is because at first you'd say, well, now she's learning, she's going to fly up onto the fist, and she's learning. But she isn't. This is what happened. She started landing on my head. Reason being for that is that it's the highest part. You know, if you're holding up your glove here, and after a while when they get used to it, you can do that. But their natural instinct is to go to the highest perch. The highest perch was a great platform on the top of my head, so she'd land on my head, which was really funny, and it was cute. Let it happen a couple times. We got a real cool picture out of it, but again, it's negative behavior you don't want the hawk to do, especially when you come around people who do not enjoy having hawks land on their head. So that could cause many issues. So for about 3 or 4 days, she was doing it, but I started discouraging it. And then she realized, okay, well, we can't do that. Then we proceeded another step to where here you can see she's doing a real good flight. I thought she's actually maybe going to fly to me, but no. For one of the first times, she passes me and she takes off up into the nice tree over there. So now she's catching on. And then here's a great one of her flying, and boom, landing straight up on the fist, what I wanted her to do, and all is good there. Now, she got good at it, which is exactly what I wanted. So I was really happy with the progression there. So one of the things I wanted to do, though, was really important to me. I said, you know, once I get her trained, I really want her to fly around, and I got to get an epic photo. I want an epic photo of her. So that's going to be our goal. Get her out into the field. At the time, I lived at a nice 300-acre monastery along the Hudson River. I had the whole place to fly around. So I said I can get some nice shots here. So when I started doing that, we went out one day, and here she goes. And if you look, she got fast. Now you see how fast she just zipped away. And we said, okay, well, Now I got to get my photography chops up. It's one thing is shooting photos and a lot of slower animals, but that's I've done most of my life. But something that fast, it needs to be timed. And you need to not only know the animal and where the animal plans to be, you need to know your camera, how fast it is, not only the shutter speeds, but how fast it reacts when you press the button. Because if there's a slight pause in it, she's out of frame already. So that became a learning process. That was really interesting. For instance, you can see here, my first shot that I got, a foot and a head. It looks cool. Wasn't what I was going for. Nothing too epic about it. But it's neat. You can see here, I mean, look at those talons. Look at that back talon. You know, those front 3 talons is really something that they grab with. And then that back one is where they dig in to make their kill. And look at that thing. And she is only like several months old at that age. And look at that talon. Absolutely a machine, those feet are. Then the second one I got was a wing. It's an awesome wing. Look how gorgeous that wing is. Look at the colors, perfectly formed. Nice blue sky behind it, but it's just a wing. So I had to keep on trying. Now understand, between every of these photos, there was probably about 10, 15 more failures between them. I didn't want to bore you that much. These are some of the pretty failures. And then after I got the wing, hey, I got a little better at it. I got a wing, a foot, and a head. So that's cool. Still not what I wanted though. So then I got a wing again. Looks cool, but again, it's still a wing. And then of all the photos, I get one of her butt. So it was challenging to say the least. And then one night I was out and it started getting dark out. So I decided to take flash photos, see what that would do. But she's flying so fast, this is what it did. It made some weird photos. This one looks like some ghost hawk. They both do. And then the second one, interesting. I actually love the translucence in her left wing to where you can actually see the background behind the feathers. So it is kind of cool. But again, not what I wanted. And then the slow sign next to something that's speeding was cool, but not what I wanted. So, but again, you learn and then you keep on going and you see what you get. You keep trying and learn as you go and gain your experience. And then once I did, it was working. I ended up getting this photo here, which this one here was really the first one I got, and that was good. And I love it because you can actually, with the blur in the background, you can see the speed of how fast she really is going. This is the first prime shot that I got of her. Not epic, but a good one. I was very, very happy with this one. Then not so long after that, she flew up into a tree and saw a mouse. And she went to dive down for the mouse, and I grabbed this one. And this one was really, again, one of my favorite shots. I can put this as like a borderline epic, maybe. This one here shows it all. I mean, again, look at those feet. I can't stress how strong those feet are. But also look how long the legs are. Birds of prey in general have long legs because they're really grabby and they work with their legs so much. So they need to get a good reach to go in for a kill. But the harris hawks have extra long legs. Now, like I said before, that these guys hunt in packs, and especially another reason why they hunt in packs is that jackrabbits are big. A female black-tailed jackrabbit is like almost as big as a hawk, if not bigger. And one kick in the head by a jackrabbit would kill him. So they work in teams, and when they get that one into the brush, and I said one hits the ground and runs in, that's what those long legs are for, is to run into the brush like that. So that's why they're adapted for it. Now, this next photo is, I'd say, getting closer to the border, to the epic, and this is a nice bank shot of her. And this is really nice, especially with the blue sky behind it. You can see just the perfect wing structure. Again, how long those legs are. Now, you see the leather straps on the feet, on the legs there? They're called jesses. And simply what they're for is that when I'm walking through the woods with her, I can have those in my hand, so if a dog comes or another person comes or something scares her, I can just hang on and then she can stay right on me because if she flies off, she may get lost. She could fly into a dangerous area, get hurt. So that's just for her safety. That's what the jesses are for. Now, once I got that bank shot, she flew out of sight, and I couldn't see her for a few minutes. And that's all right, because if you heard before in the video the bells, what the bells are for, basically it's poor man's telemetry. They have a different pitch, actually, so the sound jingles off each other, so it carries for a very long way. So when she's flying, I hear the bells. When she's running along the ground, I hear the bells. If she goes down and makes a kill, and she's trying to kill it, you're going to hear the bells. If she's eating it, you're going to hear the bells. So I can just stay quiet, and I can listen for the bells, and I can tell where she is. There's telemetry, too. That could cost thousands of dollars. She was so trained, I didn't need some expensive telemetry. The bells were enough. She never went far, and she mostly came home afterwards if I didn't look for it. Now, here's a really cool shot, too. She was flying right to the glove here, and I love it because you kind of see everything. You can see how she drops that tail down, which is going to help her stop. She's got the wings up. You can see the bells. You can see those beautiful talons and the jesses, that nice hook beak. I really like the composition of that photo. Now here's a nice flyover shot. Perfectly clear day. I just love it because of the contrast of her in the sky. And then after that, I was able to get a quick shot too. She decided to fly real high up into a tree. And while she was getting up there, I was able to get a straight up shot. So you get a nice silhouette of her coming up to the tree with a good silhouette actually of the tree itself with the beautiful blue sky in the background. Now one of the main reasons to go out and fly with them, and quite honestly, I have no interest in them going out and catching and killing things. If that happens, that's great. That's, what they do, and that's the whole part of the process. But I enjoy getting them out and really keeping them healthy. So you want them to fly a lot. Because if you think of a bird of prey in the wild, they're flying sometimes all day. They can't see at night. They're blind as a bat at night. Well, blinder than bats, since bats aren't blind, but they can't see at night. So once the sun goes down, they're staying where they are until morning. But once the sun rises, man, they could be flying all day if they choose. So they get a lot of hours on the wing. A captive one doesn't. So I like to get them out as much as possible and get them flying as much as possible and give them challenges too. So this next photo, what I did was I'd go into the woods and bring her in with me, have her follow me in, and then I would call her down to me, but instead of just calling her straight down to me, I'd put some type of obstacle in her way, whether it be the V of a tree, some branches, and these guys are just like little Corvettes, so they can really work their way around it and work the muscles. And that's what she needed. She was very young, so she needed time on the wing. So this photo here is a perfect example of, you can see to the left there, that whiteness, that's actually a tree branch. And she's coming in, and you can see she's kind of maneuvering. And even though these birds are from deserts, it just so happens that change in the colors in upstate New York really match this bird. So look at this photo here. There's two that really show it. Is these two photos here to show how perfectly camouflaged they are here in New York. Of course, they're going to look different when they're in the desert, but it happens here when you're out with them. If they're up in a tree in a fall foliage, it's practically impossible to see them. That's what the bells are for too. Sometimes they can be right in front of your face and you don't see them because they can be perfectly camouflaged. Now this next one, really cool, and it was a simple snapshot on my fist, just the light was right, and we got this cool starburst here up in the left corner. Great silhouette of the wings and everything. I was really happy with that one. Now, this next one you want to see is pretty neat because it shows you one of the dynamics of these birds. When a bird of prey locks onto its prey, or locks onto my fist, or whatever it's going for, it needs to lock right on like a laser. It can't be just kind of looking all over the place. So you have to lock right on. So look at this picture here. If you notice, you can see that the wings are blurry, the feet are blurry. Everything that's moving, you see the blur. But look at her head. Look at her eyes. They're right in the same spot. And that's because she's zoned right in on where she needs to go. And the rest of the body is doing what it needs to. But almost like it's on a gyroscope, the head will stay right where it needs to while the rest of the body is going. Now here's a cool one of her diving down after she saw a mouse. This one was tough. Not only has she caught squirrels, pheasants, she's also caught a Canada goose. Canada goose is like 3 times the size of her. But she's good, and she's fast, and she's strong. So something as big as a Canada goose. But why fight with a Canada goose when you can sit all day eating mice? Mice don't fight back. They've never gotten beaten up by a mouse. There's very little danger in catching a mouse. So when the opportunity arises, they're going to do it. And that was a nice little one when she was coming down and grabbing the mouse. Got a nice wingspan on that one I was happy with. This next one here, she decided to bother a family of bluebirds, so she flew over onto their birdhouse. Didn't want her there too long to disturb the bluebirds, so I called her off. But this will give you a really good idea of how long those legs are when she stretches out to fly over to me. Gigantic long legs. And again, mostly hidden while they're perched. But when they're doing that, or running, it actually sometimes looks comical because the legs are so long. Now, after she flew off there, she flew up over a hill, and I couldn't find her. Took just a couple minutes, and I wasn't looking for her. I just went in the general direction, and usually if I whistle, she'll scream back, or I'm going to hear the bells. But I wasn't hearing the bells, so I thought that was unusual, so I get over there. And then finally, I do hear the bells, but they sound a little different. They sound gurgly. And then when I get up there, I see this photo here. And that is something I didn't want to see. Great picture. I love the photo. But what this meant was that I'm going to be sitting around for a long time doing nothing. Because if you notice how the feathers are kind of puffed out a little bit, if you look close, you can see that one foot's up in the air. That means that as she's relaxing, she's not going to do anything, and she's going to stand there for about an hour. And I'm going to stand beneath her for about an hour looking like a fool doing nothing. And if you ever see a guy walking in a field by himself, looking up in trees with a glove in their hand and nothing else, you look like a weirdo. You become instantly cool when people know there's a hawk there, but if they don't see the hawk, you look like a wandering weirdo. So I was never into doing that too much. So I waited for a while, and then she did fly off. I said, all right, I thought she's going to get moving it enough, but dusk was coming. So she wasn't interested in coming back to me yet. She was interested in resting. So she flew to a tree that had more cover, more branches and stuff. And that wasn't good news for me either, because that meant she decided she's going to stay the night. Because birds of prey will naturally want to hide and kind of tuck into a tree at night so they don't get swiped off a branch and eaten by great horned owls. Some of the biggest birds of prey there are at the mercy of great horned owls because they can't see at night, and a great horned owl can take its pick and knock them right off and eat them. So she flew to another place that had more branches and cover to protect her, and she stood on one foot, as you see in the picture here. Love the picture. It was well worth the aggravation because that's the moon right behind there. Love the color, the silhouette, but you can still see parts of her. I'm really happy with this photo. But that's where she stayed for the whole night. This isn't her first time. She's done this tons of times. We got a routine together. She realizes I'm not going to wait for her, so I go home now. I just go home, go about my day, forget about her, and then go to bed. And in the morning, I'll end up hearing her screaming at first light, and she's down, sitting on this chair in the backyard. And that's really what ended up happening probably 24 times. She knew she wanted to take a rest. I'd just go home, and then she'd meet me either later that afternoon or the following day. That's how tame she was. These birds are, if cared for properly, can be almost the yellow Labrador of hawks. They get very, very tame. I actually had one hawk that when I was out flying, one day it was really, really cold. I drove up to a mountaintop, took her out flying, and then she disappeared. I went back to my car. She was standing on the hood of my car. She was keeping her feet warm on the engine. Somehow she knew it. She just knew it. She's been on the engine before, on the hood. So she remembered that it was warm one day, and she goes down to warm her feet. So they're super intelligent. But at this point, I still don't get that epic shot that I wanted. But on this monastery was the actual monastery. It was the actual building in the church, which was absolutely breathtaking to look at. And that is right here. So I realized one day, I'm like, you know what? I have to get an epic shot with that building. It just needs to get done. So at first I figured I'd try a portrait. So you look at this one. I got a nice standing there. Beautiful. They both look great. The building's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. The photo still bored me. Not epic. So I decided to put her on a little bit in front of it. And I got this shot. Now this shot here was just her and my fist. And it was more of a quick snapshot. I think it's an absolute mistake. But it's a pretty mistake, I think. I kind of like it. You see, it makes the building look like almost it's made out of bone or ivory. And nice little weird positioning of her. She was bending over, stretching her wings out. Weird timing. But again, not something that was epic. So then the steps caught my eye in the front of the building there. So I said, you know what, let me put her on the steps. And I have my glove in one hand, camera in the other, and let's just see what we can get. So I put her on the steps, and here we go. So got this shot. Kind of cool, but not what I was looking for. Timing is off, her wings are in, she's off frame. Had to keep on trying. Now understand, with every photo you're going to see here, there's probably about 20 others that were a fail. Again, I didn't want to bore you with them all. So this took, I want to say, dozens and dozens of tries every single time. Then try a different angle. That had potential, except the fact that she's down at the bottom of the frame there. And you look at it, you're like, oh, well, look at that building there. And then you're like, oh, wow, there's a hawk at the bottom. So that wasn't it either. But, you know, you keep on swinging. So I kept on swinging. And then I came up with this one, which I said, oh, wait, that's like a semi-epic one. You got that whole monastery sitting there, and she's there, but you know what? Her wings cut off on the tips there. She's a little dark, but that had potential. So I kept that angle, tried it again. And this time I ended up getting this one, which I have to say was epic. So that's an epic one right there. That's where I could say, all right, I got the shot I wanted. But I wasn't giving up. You know what? I said, let's see if we can get this. What else can I get? So we went a closer way to the front of the monastery. And after about another 30 tries, I ended up getting this photo here, which I think is an equal epic photo. Different angle, different vibe to it. But man, I was still really happy with it. But again, it took a long time. That goes with anything exploration. You got to keep going at it. Your failures aren't failures. You just learned how not to do it. So that's how I learned not to do it. And then I finally did it. And that was Brisa. So this is what I'd like to do with all my probably 5,000-6,000 photos, but I'm not going to bore you with them all. We'll get the best of the best and throw some of the cool videos in there and show you the stories. But what I recommend is that please, you know, I take requests. Contact me. Let me know what you want me to show you. I'm going to keep on doing this and do what I think you're going to enjoy. But what I really want is you tell me what you enjoy so I know it. And then I can aim right in that direction, because Patreon is my number one focus here and my number one priority. So hope you love Brisa. After this, I'm going to throw up a video of great montage I have of her flying. You get a really good idea on just how gorgeous she really is. So I hope you had a good time. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.